That's why people need to give Boots a little bit of leeway for this performance. He chose to put on an entertaining fight because people don't know how to go through the process of comparison without having to degrade one of the things being compared. People can't appreciate Boots for being Boots and Bud for being Bud, especially because there's a competition there. They say comparison is a thief of joy. Well, I guess we're about to rob the bank. No, but in all seriousness, to address that, and I'll talk more about that at the end of this video, we should be able to critique and appreciate both performances without having to tear down one of the fighters that we're rooting for or not rooting for in that instance. It doesn't matter which fighter you're a fan of. You should be able to say good things and bad things about both men. That's a sticking point of this channel. Now let's talk fight theories. Hit that like button, get down in the comment section, tell me your thoughts. Now, because in the previous video there were some discussions about this, but I want to have a more elaborate conversation, and I want to hear what the community has to say in more detail. Who had the better performance over Avanesian, with all of the variables and factors accounted for? And that's kind of what this video is going to be about, although it's mostly a platform on how to have a better discussion around somewhat controversial things, especially in the boxing community. I want to hear your thoughts, and then I'm going to talk about some of the things that are being overlooked, and I'm going to tell you why or who I think had the better performance and why, while also accounting for some of those overlooked aspects. Okay, let's start off with the important thing: defining a good performance. I think two general aspects determine the value of a performance: efficiency and effectiveness. How hard are you working to get the outcome, and how good or impressive is the outcome itself? Now, there's a bunch of arguments that can be streamed down from the idea that Avanesian was damaged goods from the Crawford fight going into the Boots fight, but it's hard to back that up with any kind of evidence. It's kind of speculation. So I think the better line of arguments is, if you're going to try and take away some credit for Boots' performance, talk about the 4 weeks notice. But the problem with that is people will only acknowledge one side of that argument, and they won't give credit to Boots for making the adjustments to fight a completely different style of opponent, and a completely different style of fight, and a tougher, better opponent that he was not preparing for, also on 4 weeks notice. So there's credit to be given and credit to be taken away, just like most things that are going to be mentioned here, and just like most things in life. Most things aren't black and white. Crawford and Boots had completely different approaches to the fight. Now, Crawford would fight on the inside at times, but Crawford mostly came in boxing, keeping range, probing a lot, moving on the outside, and fighting a relatively safe fight from range. Whereas Boots volunteered an inside fight. He chose to brawl, and he let down his defense a lot. Boots was more brutal, and there was more of a beating, and there was more damage accumulated, more power shots landed. But the same is also true of him. He got hit with some hard and clean punches. That's an important phrase, hard and clean. I took that from the scoring criteria. Crawford got hit as well, but the damage was relatively less because Crawford wasn't walking into shots. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Who I think performed better and why? I think Crawford was more effective and efficient. The most effective victory you can get is when someone is out cold. And the most efficient way you can get there is being dominant along the way to that KO. Now, both of them were relatively dominant, winning almost, if not all, of the rounds. Boots broke him down, hit him hard, hit him a lot, but in the process, he had to work harder. Boots had to work harder. He had to do more. And Crawford had to do less for a better result. That's a better performance in my book. Does that mean Crawford is the better fighter? No, because one performance doesn't define. I do think he's a better fighter, to be clear, but I'm just trying to point out the fact that one performance does not define everything a fighter has done or will do. That's why people need to give Boots a little bit of leeway for this performance. He chose to put on an entertaining fight, and I don't think he should be criticized for doing that. At least he should be criticized for some defensive issues, but I think he should also be given credit for fighting a fight that he didn't have. He went to Avanesian's territory and beat him in his own game, basically. But when you're being compared to great fighters, that comes with the territory, all of that critiquing. The more your star power rises, the more you reach into the upper echelon of elite fighters, you get compared and contrasted with them, and you start to build your own resume. People are going to scrutinize you more and more. And I do believe in that. I do believe in more scrutiny as you raise the level of greatness that you're achieving, but I also believe in giving more credit where it's due, and that's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. People will do the scrutiny and they won't give the credit at the same time. Now, in this particular performance, someone said that Boots just used his athleticism in this performance, and relative to how he fights a lot of other times throughout his career, this was one of those performances where he didn't pull out too many of his skills and elite techniques. He didn't show too much of his IQ. But like we said earlier, just one fight isn't enough to judge someone's entire body of work. Yeah, is Boots a great athlete? Yeah, but he also has great skills. This fight just wasn't a good demonstration of that. There are better fights where he demonstrates more of that. Now, this fight, Boots versus Crawford, could possibly happen. And if it does, both of their performances over Avanesian aren't going to be the things we look at to gauge how this fight could possibly turn out, at least if you're smart. It's going to be different opponents with closer styles, but at the end of the day, they are both going to prepare for a tough fight because they know the man across from them is a damn good fighter. Don't forget that. Give credit where it's due, because they sure will when they're preparing. You can criticize without hating or trying to diminish for the sake of disliking someone, and you can give credit without being a fanboy. So you can criticize without hating or just trying to diminish someone because you dislike them, and you can give credit without being a fanboy. Those two things are possible. Now, to end this full circle, you want to know why comparison is the thief of joy? Boxing is the perfect exemplar to study, particularly the way people talk about boxing. Comparison isn't the thief of joy because of some intrinsic negativity imbued in the process of comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy because people don't know how to go through the process of comparison without having to degrade one of the things being compared. People can't appreciate Boots for being Boots and Bud for being Bud, especially because there's a competition there. But that's what the point of this video is. Appreciate both for what they are, criticize where they could do better, and move on. That is all, Fight Scientists. I'm out.